Welcome to Taking Back Humanity, the podcast that's all about breaking free from the shackles of modern life and living on your own terms. If you're tired of the 9-to-5 grind, feeling unfulfilled, and wondering if there's more to life than the daily routine, then you've come to the right place. Welcome, my fellow humans, to another episode of Taking Back Humanity. I am your host, Aaron Shade. I'm happy to have you here as we embark on a journey of breaking free from the chains that bind us and embrace a life of purpose. To demonstrate how people find their purpose, I'm here with Carrie Allen, who quit her corporate job in 2011 to start her own business aligned with her purpose. Welcome, Carrie.
Hello, Aaron. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here too. So before we get into it, I have a quick fun question for you. If you could travel or live anywhere on the world, where would that be?
Ooh, I am very partial to France. I would probably live in France, potentially. I'm really intrigued by because one part of France that I haven't been to is the Southwest, which is kind of the dark triangle where you can see the night sky and all the stars. And so that is a place that is calling me currently. And I love France in general. So
I've
that's
never
it.
heard of the Dark Triangle before.
Yeah, I recently heard about it as I was speaking with somebody that lives in that area that the Southwest, there's just this one triangle where you can see the Milky Way, you can see all the stars, and like, well, now I have to go there.
Yeah, I had an experience. So I was down in Namibia, which is very remote, and I could see the southern sky just perfectly because there was no light pollution there. And it was just so amazing. I mean, we do have this issue around the world right now where there aren't that many places where you can see the night sky like
Mhm.
like that because of all of the light pollution that we have. So
Yeah.
there's some triangle in France that I don't know about. Maybe I should go check it out.
Yeah, right. I know. I heard about it. I was like, and now I have to go. So let's do it.
Yeah. So could you share your personal journey of transitioning from your corporate job to starting your own business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been working in marketing and in a corporate way for 15 plus years. And my last corporate role, I was in what I would call or I used to call my dream job, right? As I was working up the corporate ladder, doing all the things, I always knew I wanted to be the head of marketing. And so I took a role actually during the pandemic that allowed me to be head of marketing for a growth stage startup. And this is like, yes, this is it. This is the dream. Here I am. And then I got into that. I created and cultivated a great team that I was working with to build this beautiful brand. And I was surrounded by toxic leaders and a
Mm.
toxic culture. And I didn't see it for quite some time. I worked there for a little over a year, which seems like no time at all. And yet, when I look back on it, it feels like eternity, right? And what happened for me is I didn't see it because it honestly was not what I would have said to you at the time was burnout or was toxicity or things like that, because quite frankly, it was abusive. And so it was kind of this mental abuse of break you down, build you up, break you down, build you up. And so I kind of lost myself. And at that time, my body was actually screaming to me. I had multiple symptoms that were starting to emerge physically for me from the stress. And others were saying it to me as far as, you seem the most stressed you've ever been in your whole life. And I just couldn't connect the dots because the stress that I was experiencing was very different than what I would anticipate. So I was fortunate to have some crazy concept that I had already been dreaming out about for years that I wanted to bring into the world. And so I hired a business coach. And in our first session, she said, okay, can we do a quick meditation? I said, sure, that sounds great. And I cried through the entire thing. And it just all of a sudden clicked for me that, like, oh my gosh, what is happening? I have become a robot. I'm no longer a human. I don't even know who I am or what I am and how did it get this bad so fast? And so um, I started to kind of sit with that, bring awareness to that, and listen to my body. And I took a vacation for a week and my body felt better. And when I came back, all those symptoms and stress came like back really fast in a way that I could see. And that was the moment when I said, no more of this. I have to get out. I have to leave. And now is kind of the kick in the pants that I needed to find myself again and set off on my own adventure.
Yeah, I have very similar experiences where I had all of the stress symptoms. And in fact, there was one time where I had such a bad panic attack that I thought I was having a heart attack and went to the hospital.
Yeah.
It was just pretty ridiculous. And then when you're going through all of that stress, I think you also do a lot of um, I don't know, just wrecking your own body because you're trying to cope with it. So you're going to eat bad food. You're going to maybe even drink more alcohol or whatever it might be just to cope with the situation. It's like you're coping with something and you're boxed into this situation where you're not your true self. You're just what you have to show up every day is just you're just molded into something completely different than who you really are.
Oh, yeah.
And I just felt like so out of alignment with that, and I was really happy to leave that position that was causing all of that stress. And then I just go into the next one and rinse and repeat, but not quite. I mean, some companies have been better than others, but overall, I mean, it doesn't really matter which company you're for. It's more about the bottom line for them and not about you at all. It's just how you are supporting that. And I'd rather be in a place where I can help other people and bring joy to other people and help them make some meaningful transition in their life than to just support the corporate overlords, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because as I reflect back on that time in my life, there was this duality that happened for me because the team that I was working with, and I think this is part of why it was so hard for me to recognize what was actually happening to me. The team that I was working with was phenomenal. We were working together really well. And, it's hard for me to say these, but I'm working on it. It's like that's attributed to me bringing this humanness to our working environment and to how I build teams specifically is focusing on each of them as humans, having conversations with them about their whole career in life, not just this job and this company. And I continue to attract people in the organization to want to work with me, to want to spend time with me. And that was recognized from leadership. And then I was asked to do more of that. And yet I was almost being squeezed between this awesomeness that I was creating and this toxicity above me. Right. And so I saw the amazingness. And so it helped me reject the torture, for lack of a better word, from the top down, right? That was wrecking me. And so that polarity to me is really important for me to look back on now to say, one, it helped me see and cement for me that I'm capable. I need to go out and do these things and that I can create this even in these terrible situations. Like I can bring that light for people. So how can I actually do that, to your point, in a way that's truly transformative for people, not in this kind of bubble of toxicity and protecting people from the bad, but actually allow them to shine their light brightest in the world.
Yeah, even me when I was in leading teams and we'd have a whole group of us and we all had to get the job done, yes, but at the same time, I tried to make sure everybody was well balanced, and if someone was struggling, that I'd help them out. And it was just a really supportive community. But yeah, again, the higher layers of management were another story, and they were very, very demanding of us in different ways, and did create a lot of stress, and some people left as a result. And then I was really thankful when they decided to move their corporate headquarters to Chicago, and I wasn't going to move with them, and I was going to get a severance and then start a new job the next day, which is what happened. And I was like, perfect.
Hey, thank you.
But again, I mean, I coped a lot with humor. I would try and do fun jokes, pranks on people, different things like that, just so we could create that fun atmosphere as much as we could, even though all the work wasn't that fun always.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating to me. It's a question that continues to come up for me. And certainly in my new endeavor is how did we lose our way as far as, this phrase comes up for me, which is it's not personal, it's business. And I think that that's actually one of the worst things that we've done in the working world, which is detach the people part
Mm.
from this engine that happens, right? Because I was witness to the fact in my ability to create this team that was based on humans, we did awesome work, right? Great work was the output of that, but that's because I focused on the humans. And we as a society seem to have this backwards that we focus on, like you said, the bottom line, the objectives, the numbers, the goals, the revenue, all these things. And then the people are the function to make that happen. But the reality is, if you actually focus on the people, all that stuff just happens. It's amazing to see what can happen when you focus on the humans that are doing the work.
Yeah. And I've seen companies that do that. A lot of tech companies seem to have a better edge on that because they want to
Mhm.
retain their talent and they want to make
Yeah.
it fun for them. And they have all these perks. And even my wife was a software engineer before she left her job also.
Yeah.
And had, all these like really, they had like a tap in their office and all kinds of, just fun stuff. And they'd have like different parties throughout the year where they'd bring in, I mean, you can bring in your spouses and they'd have drinks and all kinds of stuff. And it was just a lot of fun to have that more supportive environment. But in a lot of manufacturing companies, like in the world that I've come from, it's a very different story. And they wouldn't do that because, well, if they did that for the corporate people, they'd have to do that also for the workers. And there's no way they're going to spend the money on it. And it's just a different environment. But at the same time, those people in the office, they feel like, I mean, just garbage most of the time anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting. Those are great examples. And something that's come up for me, and I think the world is seeing it now, um, that was very much how we supported humans, right? By snacks and a pool table and a nap pod or a beer keg or all these different things, right? And it's interesting now to look back and say, and with kind of this great resignation and all these things that are coming up, people are like, yeah, but that's still not embracing me as a human, right? That's just enticing me to spend time at the office.
Perks.
And maybe perks, right? They're perks, but it's actually not focusing on the real humanness of, hey, I have my kid's baseball game. Hey, I have doctor's appointments. Hey, like these things are happening in my whole life, and work is a sliver of it rather than thinking about it as life on one side and work on the other. Right. And so we've had this magical opportunity to kind of start to meld these together. And right now it's really ugly because we don't know how to meld it together quite yet,
Mm.
in a new way. So I think it's interesting to kind of watch these trends and things happen from a work experience perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people just feel like they're stuck in their corporate jobs and they want something more and more meaningful and yeah, just trying to find that and make it what you live for every day. And that, I mean, that transition might be a little difficult for some people, but once you do have it, it's magic because I mean, it really opens up your life. You feel a lot better. You're not as stressed all the time. You're more at ease with yourself and you can spend the time to grow because I think when you're in a company like that and you're boxed into that environment, you're staying at the same level. You're not really growing as a human being. You might be growing in positions and making more money, but at the same time, each time you step up another level, you're under more pressure, I think. And
Yeah.
that's why you can really see it in the vice presidents and CEOs and CFOs and all those people. They're not always very happy. I mean,
Yeah.
you'd see them just practically yelling at each other in meetings sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's just uh,
Absolutely.
just
Absolutely.
crazy that that's just the way things are. And I really just don't want to be that. And when my business grows to a certain level and I have my own employees, they're not going to be treated that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's amazing what's happening, as we kind of go in, we're moving into this creator economy and the ability for more people to create their own way and world in which we operate. And there's so much wonderful autonomy to that. And I think that we also need to plant the seed for those that feel stuck, that there are ways to support yourself, even if you need to stay attached to a corporate job at maybe this moment, maybe it's forever, maybe it's for just a period of time, of thinking about your life holistically. What skills do you as a human want, and that they don't all have to come from work, right? We've created this attachment to this career that's maybe over attached because we expect to get all the things from the career. And if we kind of detach that and realize that it's a part of our greater selves, then we can start to say, oh, well, I volunteer, or I have my family, or maybe I have my pets, or I travel, or whatever those things are that are important to me, my recreational things, maybe it's sports, etc. Like, how do I start thinking about that and actually get the career part into alignment with your whole life rather than inflating it into it needs to be all of this for me? And I think that can help people, even if they're feeling that they might want to get out, but they can't. Like, how do I reorient myself to where this actually fits in my life?
Yeah, I think looking back at my own journey, when I was in high school, so I grew up in a poor family. My mom was taking care of me because my dad left when I was young. And I didn't want to be the same way as my parents, and I wanted to grow beyond that. And so I went to college, and I also was working full time while I was in college, and they paid for some of my bachelor's degree, great. And I moved into manufacturing to start with, and then moved into accounts payable was the first like more office job that I had. But because of that, and then the degree, then I just started raising in the ranks of accounting and finance, and that really was misaligned with me the whole time. And I didn't even really realize it. It was just something that happened. It was just circumstantial that I was able to move into that position within that manufacturing company. And then I just kept going up the ranks of accounting, and then into finance, and then finance manager, and then quit my job in 2019 and travel the world. So
Yeah.
and realized, geez, what am I doing with all of this? Is this really the path that I need to stay on? No, I can do different things, and have my own business, have my own membership as well, and have people transition from work to having more free time in their life and doing different things that are better aligned with them and their purpose. And that's just so much better than just reporting to a job every day and getting a paycheck. Even if I don't make as much money as I did before, that's not really what matters to me. It's more about how happy I am and how fulfilled I am in what I'm doing. And so that's just where I'm at right now. But
Yeah, I love that. And I think that aligns very much to where I feel right now too, which is it's scary to be on your own, right? Because you are responsible for it, but the real abundance comes from the autonomy, the time, the freedom, the capacity to make my own decisions based on what feels good in this moment. And that to me feels like the bigger win than the title or the money or whatever perks they may have for me. Instead, I get to say yes to what I want to do and no to what I don't.
yeah, and I think also your energy that you're putting out into the world is so much different when you're able to show up with just more of a positive attitude, because you don't have all that stress and all that weight on you all the time. And I mean, I remember being after work and I'd come home grumpy, and my wife would feel that or something. And I just like, I don't want to show up like that at home.
Yeah. Yeah. You say that, and the first thing that comes to mind is one of the key signals that I saw was the reason that I needed to leave my job is my son was 3 or 4 at the time. And, again, I was kind of living this robotic life, right? Like get up, do the things, do the things, do the things, go to bed, rinse and repeat over and over and over again. And as you can see from me, I'm a very smiley, happy, like optimistic person. But what was happening at the time is that was like a facade for me
Mm.
and something that I've always been. So it just happened, but it wasn't actually, I didn't feel it on the inside. And one of the big things that occurred is my son said to me one night, Mom, why don't you smile? And the first time he said it, I said, what are you talking about? I smile all the time. I'm da, 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 da. And I like plastered a smile on my face, right? But kids are smart. They're way smarter than we ever give them credit for. They're super intuitive, right? They're
True.
super emotionally intelligent. And he saw something that I couldn't see at that time. And then a couple months went by. And after I'd had that meditation session and kind of started to move down this path, he said it to me again. And I said, you know what? You're right. Mommy's going to do something about that because it shouldn't be that way. I want to smile more. I'm so thankful for them to help me like recognize those things, and that they've helped me kind of go down this path.
Yeah, I feel like the same with my wife. I mean, seeing me grumpy all the time and just not very happy. Um, Same story, same motivator.
Right. Right. Sometimes you just need that like mirror reflection to you to say, oh, like I'm kind of pretending, right? Like I'm making up all these reasons, stories, etc., like
Mm.
coping mechanism, escapism, all these different things to try and not have to face it. And then the people that are closest to you, when they really start to reflect that back to you, it's like, okay, I have to make different decisions.
Sure. So how did you identify your purpose and align that with your business?
Well, what I'll say is it has been evolving since the day I made the decision to jump out
Of course.
of the corporate world, right? Like, this is the big secret, but it's not a secret, or it shouldn't be, which is like, I don't know what I'm doing. And yet I fully know exactly what I'm doing and that I'm moving down the right path. Um, so a lot of our conversation has stemmed from working with people, and that has been really important to me my entire life and career. And so I always knew, and I've always known that there's this magic in community, and specifically people that are at the same moment or stage or facing a similar situation as yourself. And so that seed has been there, I don't know, my whole life, probably. I can go back to probably seventh grade when I have one of my first moments of like bringing people together based on commonality, right? And so that has popped up for me in different ways throughout my life. And a couple of years before I ended up quitting, it popped up for me again because there's something to this in this career environment where people don't have mentorship, and it should be readily accessible, and yet it's elusive, or it feels elusive to a lot of people. And so that is what kind of set me up off on this path to say, okay, how can we close this gap? Because I believe in the power of people. And I believe that by finding and connecting with people in which you resonate with, in which can offer you something based on kind of whatever you're seeking at that moment, that's where the expansion, that's where your evolution, that's where your growth happens. So for me, that purpose statement is actually really pretty new for me, because I was trying to say it was just this or it was just that, but it's actually bigger. And so my purpose statement is to amplify human potential through the power of community. And so that's not just work, that's life, that's parenting, that's learning how to be a human, all those things. And what that statement says to me is all of that happens in creating these connections. And so I've spent a lot of time getting to know myself, because if I talk about community, the most intimate community is within yourself. And you have to start to know yourself to then start to seek and explore. And in seeking and exploring through other communities and other connections, you start to strengthen your community within you. And so that has kind of been this cyclical path that I've been on. I think of it as like concentric circles, right? So like me, and then my immediate family, and then outward community, and then back in and out and in and out. And all of that has allowed me to get to that purpose statement of, oh, okay, this is what lights me up inside. I could talk about this for days and weeks on end of how valuable community is from a work perspective, from a parenting perspective, from a friend perspective, from a spirituality perspective, whichever way that is. It's community. It's how you learn and grow. And so finally, like anchoring into that really feels like outrageously big purpose statement is so grounding to me. It feels like home. And so now I have kind of that cornerstone that I've had to do a lot of deep exploration on myself, my relationships, and exploring all kinds of communities, right? Meeting with other people, like truly just following my heart and following my intuition to say, ooh, there's something here that feels good to me. I'm going to go explore that and see what happens. And getting to know kind of my gremlins, the ones that pop up and tell me these things that aren't really true, and being able to get them to quiet down, at least, not go away. Those have all been really imperative to me, getting closer and closer to that, and then being actually able to feel and align when I'm aligned with that purpose. And now, not every day, because I'm not perfect at it every day, but I really try to center myself on that and say, okay, what is this a yes? Is this a no? What am I doing today? What feels really aligned in this moment? And then move forward based on that. Like I said, some days I'm a little less perfect at staying aligned and I charge myself forward on certain things, but that's just part of learning and growing. And so I'm trying to embrace that experience at the same time.
Yeah, I think this last year has been my year of working on that myself and just doing the self work and listening to the woo-woo types of things that are helping me just change my mindset around everything.
Yeah.
And in fact, Taking Back Humanity was an idea I had almost 10 years ago. And I created this blog that's out there right now. It's kind of a garbage blog compared to our travel blog, but it does still present a lot of the ideas I had back then as far as what that even means and just how you need to do a lot of that self-work and overcome a lot of the fears that you have, and just basically taking back your life and making it your own. And it's now like coming full circle back to me again. Now I'm starting this podcast and bringing that back to life. And I just feel like that's the energy I want to put out into the world right now, is just that, finding your purpose and your passion and doing that.
Yeah. I think, well, one, that I resonate deeply with that statement and taking back humanity, because we've really lost our way. And I will say that since that kind of clarity and moment in needing to leave the corporate world, like creating a business is hard, and so many things in my life have felt disconnected from what I was actually trying to build from a business perspective, right? So, but ultimately now, and I'm sure it will continue to evolve, but now, it's all connected, because it is about learning how to be human. And in some ways, I know it's like this, I'm like, we have to create this school of how to be a human because somehow we don't do that. And things over the last, since I quit my job, and probably even a little bit before, have really presented those opportunities for me to learn things that I never learned before. My daughter has like a viral infection that pops up every once in a while. And so I did a deep dive on the immune system and viruses and how to support the immune system, and seeking assistance that's outside of the standard kind of medical, because I listened to my body, and my body was like, that person's not giving me enough information. What they're saying doesn't have to be irrelevant, but I need more than that. And so I listened to myself and I went further and deeper. My son has been dealing with a lot of social emotional things. and sensory things. And so I'm going deep on that stuff, right? And these are all things that, heck, I didn't learn emotions as a child. I don't know how many other people resonate with that, but I feel that we're kind of in this moment where we're relearning emotions and accepting them for what they are. And so I see the last couple of years as giving me all these opportunities, which were not easy, right? Have been challenges, have been really hard, but they've been giving me this opportunity to learn and explore and expand and truly get back to like, oh, now I know, one, how to trust myself and how to support myself from a health and immune perspective, right? And sensory perspective and emotional perspective. And I'm back gardening now. And that was something that I was always told I hated. And I'm like, I love it. And I'm learning how to grow things and cook things, right? And what keeps coming up for me is stepping out of ease and stepping into empowerment. Like, yeah, I can order all these things online. I can do this, I can do that. But you know what's cooler? Doing it myself and learning through that. And so I'm really kind of trying to embrace that. And I think a part of that feeds back to your point of like taking back humanity, right? Like we have all these powers like right within us. And somehow, somewhere along the way, we like stripped all those out. And we need to get back to like, we have all the answers already right here within us. Like just listen to yourself, trust yourself, right? Trust is so important. I love that you're doing this.
In fact, in the Taking Back Humanity, my original statement is we've forgotten basically how to be human, and now it's time to take it back, kind of thing, And I don't know the exact words, but it's something along those lines. And it's so true though, because we're just so out of contact with what we're meant to be. And another thing, we in the United States especially, I feel like we've lost a lot of that sense of community that a lot of other places around the world do still have. And I did notice that quite a bit, especially in South America. It seemed like everybody knew everybody. They'd help each other out. If somebody fell down, they'd bring them back up. It was just, in here, it's me.
Yeah.
And I really would prefer to just start building more communities like you're talking about, or you're doing, and just have that as just the way it should be,
Yeah. I mean, we are a species that is meant to be in tribe or collections or groups or communities, right? Like we need a sense of belonging. And I mean, you're speaking my language because especially in my experience, all of a sudden you reach this moment in your life, as for me was becoming a parent. All of a sudden it was, I have to do everything. It's like, wait a minute. I have to rear the children. I have to feed the children. I have to, you kind of add on these things like daycare or childcare or whatever it is, but then you're working and all of a sudden it's like, I'm all by myself. How am I supposed to do all this stuff? And I don't say this lightly because I know it's kind of a bold statement, but the way I see it is we're kind of doing it backwards. We're like, okay, we'll bolt on all these things to help fix this. It's like, but we've missed the point, which is we haven't created the community for families, children, parents to thrive. Instead, we're like giving them resources, right? But none of that actually builds the true community that supports this life that happens. And that's the way it always was, right? That somebody in the community or in the tribe or the village, they were the person that went hunting, and there was somebody that cooked the food. There was somebody that clothes that, like, right? Everybody had a role to play. And now as a parent, you play all the roles, and that is exhausting at minimum. And so how do we get back to who we are as a species, as humans, to say like, oh, hey, it doesn't have to be this hard.
Yeah, I've been working on getting into different communities and also creating my own. So I have a local meetup group that meets every couple weeks in Eugene, and that is just travel specific. And we do little socials, and I do little presentations on different countries. and it's a lot of fun. And then I also have a business community locally in the city that I'm in, and I just meet with them once a month. But still, just getting such a variety of perspectives on things is really helpful when you're talking about your business and they're like, well, what if you got together with this group over here and they might be interested in that, or you just make all these different connections. And now, I mean, with online space too, I have definitely a lot of people that I bounce stuff off of too, and we all work together, and I help them, they help me. And I also have a business accounting group that I meet with every couple of weeks too, so we just talk about what's going on in our business and what's going well, what's not, and how can we help. And then we just all help each other. So there's just a lot of, I think it's good to be in more than one community is what I'm also getting at too, because if you just stay in your own little bubble, that's not always good. You need to be able to expand and grow, so that you need to be around a multitude of different types of people, and then that really helps you improve as your own human.
Absolutely, right? Like, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves, but we can't really be a part of too many communities, or there cannot be too many communities in this world, right? Because they're all anchored on some commonality. And for me, there's a piece of community that, even as we've tried to bring back community, we've watered down a little bit, because I see lots of like, oh, join my community. It's like a one-way conversation. It's my email list or whatever it is, right? And what you're talking about is true community, which is, hey, we come together saying we want to support each other, and how can we do that, right? And we create a level of kinship in that community that allows us to actually create those connections and those relationships that drive the feeling of belonging and the actual community. And so I love that. And you're absolutely right. You should be a part of multiple communities, because every community is going to offer you something different. And that's why I say you as a person are your own community, because you've got all these things, right? You've got all these interests, you've got all these passions, you've got all these different attributes to yourself. And so getting to know your own community, so then you can seek additional communities in which you find alignment, is good. And allow yourself to be discerning, because sometimes a community will be a really good fit for you at a certain point in your life, and then you may evolve out of it. And that doesn't mean that that community isn't a good community still. It just no longer aligns with where you are in your life too.
Yeah. And where I'm at in my life right now is just trying to work on improving my business and my offerings, so that way I can attract the right people in who actually want to go through the process, and not just any Joe Schmo that's like, oh, that sounds kind of cool, and then they quit after a month because they're not interested in it. And then also, I mean, some of these communities I'm in even have financial resources if I wanted to. I mean, one's with a chamber of commerce for the city. I mean, I mean, those people are there as well. So it's just like, well, if there are resources or grants I can get or anything else that I can do to help with getting this business off the ground, then great.
Yeah.
And you never know where an opportunity is going to come from in any of these places, because it's just the people you talk to, they all have different ideas and know different people, and just making those connections and expanding on them, then that's just really gold.
Absolutely. Right. Like, I think of it often as, you never know what seed you're going to plant and when it's actually come to bear fruit. And that may be right now, or it might be 5 years from now. And that connection becomes really fruitful at that point, because now you're at that point in your life where that is a connection that's going to make sense for you. But continuing to cultivate all those different communities, resonating with different people, is always going to be valuable.
Yeah. I feel like when you put a certain level of energy out there, then the right people somehow appear and come into your life. It's just kind of interesting how that works. Yes. But it's been happening a lot right now. So I actually believe that is true, that it's totally like the law of attraction. When you're putting out the right certain energy frequencies out there, then you receive back sometimes more than what you're putting out. And it's just like, wow, I didn't even know I could do that.
It's amazing, right? And I think, what you're saying, I love that. And I totally agree. And I think the optimist in me has always felt that. And yet it's so easy to kind of be skeptical about it, but really it is true. And it's a big part of what I believe, as we were talking about, just bringing back humanity. Like, be you, right? Be your authentic, like full, shine your light bright energy, like for yourself, because it will attract what's meant for you. And not everything that's out there is meant for you. And that's great, because you shouldn't have everything and you shouldn't want everything, but you need to be discerning for yourself. But if you aren't being authentically you, you're not going to attract the things that are meant for you. You're going to attract the things that are meant for whatever persona or energy you're putting out there. And so we've created this like world in which you need to look a certain way, be a certain way, do a certain thing, you know, status symbols or things like that. And it's like, at the end of the day, really, like, do you want to attract what that's bringing in, or do you want to attract like what you really want, which is based on who you are? So be you.
Yeah, I used to live in Portland. I'm probably going to move back there, Portland, Oregon. And one of their slogans is keep Portland weird.
Yeah.
And I always say keep Aaron weird. So I did because really, I do have a lot of weird personality types of things, and I just need to like keep putting that out there because that's who I really am, and not just the box that everybody else wants me to be, or the, like you said, the clothes that you wear, the, the way you're supposed to approach people.
Yeah.
That all that stuff is just, I felt truly like a robot at work. I would just be like, okay, this is a CEO. I'm walking into his office. I had to walk in all like, just not as myself as much, but more like matter of fact, and here's the information you need type of thing, and not, but I sometimes would goof off at work. A couple weeks before I left the company, I put on a full dinosaur suit and ran around the office and had somebody record it and everything. And I actually use it now as like my breaking free from the corporate world videos.
That's amazing.
But I used to play pranks on people too. There was this one time where it was at that company that I was having the really rough time around 2011 also. And there was some baby shower that we had, and there were cupcakes involved. And like, I took the cupcake and then I forgot about it, left it in my desk for a while. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put it in somebody else's desk. And then it was just funny. We had this whole thing going on where she finally discovered it like 3 weeks later or something. And then everybody was talking about who did this. And then they start putting up signs with like this picture of this like cupcake with like the like dark, it was basically a cupcake bandit, like wanted the cupcake bandit. So it was like going around for a while, and I wasn't telling anybody. I was just living it up. It's just funny. Then eventually they found out it was me. And then I went on vacation. So I went to Florida. I went on a vacation for a week. I came back and my desk was plastered with little tiny pictures. Like every key on my keyboard had little faces of David Hasselhoff on them. And like all the walls of the cubicle were just covered in David Hasselhoff. And then it was just like all over the place. And it was just completely plastered. It was just so funny. So I'm like, I walk into the office that morning. I got in early because I'm like, I got to get to work and get caught up on everything. Nobody was there quite yet. I tore every single bit of that down and made it disappear like it never happened. So they couldn't get their laugh out of me. But it's just stuff like that. It's fun. That was also coping, because it's just, we had to do stuff like that in order to make us more human and have more fun at work than otherwise.
Yeah, I see that as like a double-edged sword, right? Like, that was so much fun because you guys were just being human, right? You were having fun with each other, you were playing pranks, you were bringing that humanness to work. And to your point, like, also a coping mechanism, because that was like repressed, like, experience that you wanted to be able to create in this environment. But
yeah, it's that release from all of the other garbage that you're dealing with. It's just letting that go for a moment and just being there and having fun.
Yeah.
But I think work should be fun. Whatever you're doing should be fun. And if it's not fun, then you need to find something else to do.
Yeah. I was fortunate to work at a company for roughly 5 years. And when I walked into that company, well, I worked in like a stuffier environment prior to that. And then I walked into this company and I asked like, well, what do I wear to an interview? Like a suit or business casual? And they were like, I'm sorry, what do you mean? And they're like, there is no like dress code. And I'm like, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean there's no dress code? Like everywhere I've worked has had a dress code. Like, what do I wear? Oh my God. Like the panic that I wasn't told what to do. Right. And that company was so valuable for me to understand that I could actually be me and still be taken seriously and appreciated for the value that I brought by being just me. And I mean, it had its own challenges and things like that too. And it wasn't, perfect, but it was such a stark difference from where I had worked before that it created a lot of this like knowledge in me that like, this is actually really important. And even though I enjoyed the working experiences before that, that freedom is really, really invaluable from a working perspective. So, yeah.
Yeah, my last company, it was pretty casual. I mean, we could wear jeans if we wanted to. I probably couldn't go quite to a t-shirt, but I could just at least have like a button down short sleeve or something like that and just be fine. My wife's company, on the other hand, they had, since it was more techie, I think there was a guy in there that wore a kilt every day to work. And there were some other people that would wear shorts or t-shirts or whatever, because anything pretty much could go there, unless they had like customers coming in, they might have to dress up or something. But and that was true at my company too. If we had customers coming into the office, then we'd probably dress up to business casual, more like maybe slacks and a dressier shirt, and that's about it. But most of the time it's pretty laid back. But I like that because I never want to be, I couldn't imagine just being in like a suit every day or something. I'd just be so uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, ours was like, I mean, shorts, t-shirts, sandals, like literally whatever you wanted. And like the one that always got me, this is just a female perspective, but like spaghetti strap dresses. And it's like that goes back to like elementary school for me, that like you had to have a sleeve, right? Or you're like like measuring the width of your like strap or whatever. And like that, it was all fine. It didn't matter. You could wear whatever you wanted and come however you wanted and talk about whatever you wanted. And it was really unnerving for me to start, but like really, really awesome at the end of the day.
Sure. So how do you feel like your work-life balance is now that you're, an entrepreneur, you have your business? What does that look like to you right now?
Yeah, it's so good. I go through, I would say, cycles of feeling like I need to get back on the hamster wheel. And I'm really, as an entrepreneur, trying to buck this is how you entrepreneur, or this is how you have to work all the time and you have to like give blood, sweat, and tears to what you want to create in this world. And I don't believe that. It still comes up for me every once in a while, and I have to like recognize it and slow my roll a little bit when I'm forcing things rather than being in it. But my work-life balance is really good, which for me in my life right now is really important because it's given me the flexibility to be there for my kids, to be able to explore these things for myself. And I no longer see them as work-life balance. I see it as my life. And everything that I'm doing and learning and exploring in my life is feeding what I create in this life, whether that's through my children, through my local neighborhood community, or through my business, or through my clients, or whatever that happens to be. It's all interwoven. And so that's a really hard thing to break free from, that you don't have to sit down and do these things and that all these other things are not connected to it, when in reality they are. And so I really anchor myself when I feel pulled to do something different. I do a meditation that's actually like grounding for me in the beginning of the day when I feel that like angst that's kind of rising in me.
Mm.
Okay, like start thinking about what buckets are in my life and which ones are overflowing and need attention right now. And that might be the laundry, right? That sounds really boring, but like I need to get that off my back. And the freedom of being an entrepreneur or a creative or a creator in this world allows you to just do the laundry. And then the flow for creativity will come as soon as I get that, that thing off of the back of my mind. And that to me is like a whole new way of existing and living that feeds my business.
Yeah, I'm the same way because like right now I'm thinking, oh, I have a trip next week. I need to pack for it. And I'm going to pack super light. I'm going to just take one small backpack. I'm just going to start traveling that way because I don't need to have a whole bunch of stuff on a trip that's only 4 or 5 days long. I mean,
Right.
seriously. And I see these
Yeah.
people, they got these giant suitcases and they're just taking everything they could possibly do. And on for a week trip, I'm like, wow, okay, but I don't need that. Especially, I traveled the world off 2 backpacks and it was no big deal.
Yeah.
And it's like if I can live on that, then what? How much do I really need in this world? And it's another thing is like part of taking back humanity is also decluttering your life, not only mentally but also physically. Just
Yes.
releasing all of that excess stuff that you don't need because all that stuff also binds you and holds you down as well. Because like, okay, I got a 6 bedroom house and every one of those rooms has to be cleaned or whatever it might be, and it just
Mhm.
like, do I need all this space? And it just sounds like if you're just putting yourself in a place where you got to maintain so many other things, you're not going to really be able to move forward either. So you need to get all that stuff out.
Absolutely.
So even
Absolutely.
like now, it's like, yeah, we quit our jobs and traveled the world. We sold quite a bit of our stuff, but we still have plenty of our stuff. And I'm even looking through what's there, and I got all these stacked bins in this place, and it's like, gosh, do I really need even this? I could probably cut this in half too.
Yeah.
And my wife's been nagging me a little bit about that too. And I was just thinking, I wasn't on board at first. It's like, oh gosh, I want to keep this stuff. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, sure, I got a lot of sentimental things. I can still take pictures of those things and still remember them. I don't need to have them physically anymore. And I'm doing the same with even physical photos. I'm digitizing them. I'm keeping them on hard drives or on in the cloud so I can look at them there. And it's easier to access that than in a box in a bin somewhere,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That I can't buy. Yes.
Or if I want to share them, like, oh, here's my little 5-year-old me, like here it is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. Yeah, I feel as though part of my entrepreneurial journey and this like reclamation of myself has been purging, right? Like has been cleaning and decluttering and getting rid of things in the house that like, yeah, I just all every once in a while, like it comes up regularly for me. Like I did a huge purge when I first quit my job. And then a couple months later, I had another desire to like purge things. And that actually like has become a cycle for me from an entrepreneurial perspective of purge, clear the space and like declutter my brain in the space. And then creativity flows from there. And so it's like, I'm ending something and I'm moving into the next thing every time that urge comes up for me. So now I try really hard to like embrace it and spend the time and say, this isn't time away from work. This is time for work by
Mm.
doing these things around the house or cleaning things up.
Yeah, I feel like cleaning is kind of a refreshing thing. If you have, I mean, if the house looks dirty and you're in there and you're trying to do your work and you're just looking at it and you're just like, it just takes the energy out of you a little bit, thinking, oh gosh, this place is just so cluttered and all
Yeah.
this stuff's around me. And that, so we really try to keep our spaces as clean as we can, and that way it's not like, oh gosh, I got to go clean all those dishes that are sitting still on the countertop, or that big basket of laundry you're talking about, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
just having that freeing, I mean, I talked to someone yesterday on this podcast about their specialty is feng shui, right?
Oh, yeah.
And just I can totally embrace that idea of just having that, just that more welcoming environment to your life, basically. But
Yeah. Something that's like been presented to me recently is similar to that. I tend to err a little bit more towards sentimentality, so it's hard for me to
mm,
release a lot of things. But I'm working on that because there's something connected to scarcity for me for that I need to release and let go. And so um I'm working on it. And if I'm going to grow roots somewhere, I want it to feel like me and my family. And so, how do I find that balance of things that are important to me and feel like ours rather than so clean that it feels sterile, right? And so that's I'm nowhere near sterile. Let's be real. But I like it. I like it. And so, but every time I get near it, I'm like, oh, that's nice, but it doesn't feel like I live here. And so how do I find that balance of living and um not keeping things that are out of alignment? Because I think
mm,
actually I continue to see that when I purge those things, I'm releasing their energy, right? Like I don't
mhm,
you're right. It drags down your energy, whether it's just the sheer accumulation of things or it's the actual energy of the things that you have
mhm.
could be dragging you down. Like I am sure that the box of 10-year-old electronics in our basement is not doing us any
I
value.
got the same thing. I got so much outdated technology sitting around. I'm like, how do I even get rid of this stuff? Is there a way I
I
can,
know.
offload it without, throwing it just in the garbage can, or, that too? It's another thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
one of those boxes I'm talking about probably is just full of old camera gear that I don't use anymore because I have much better equipment now. And electronics, I probably have at least two other laptops sitting around that aren't doing anything for me. Um, and one I got like practically free from work. So it's just like, okay, it's just sitting there collecting dust. I should get rid of it.
Yeah. And the energy associated with that old workplace, right? Like, get
And
it
the
out.
clutter of all of this crap being around, period. I mean,
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the fact that you know exactly what it is, where it is, like that knowledge, like you can release yourself from that too.
it's like, oh gosh, do I have to go in this room?
I
Got
know.
all this stuff in it,
I
or this
know.
cluttered up garage, or whatever it might
Yeah.
be. Just yeah,
There's a closet right around the corner from me that's not for me.
don't open the closet. You never know what's going to come out.
Yeah, yeah.
If you open it, might just explode on you, and you just like,
Yeah. It's like that perfect, okay, I'm just gonna close the door and walk away.
does it shut?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So I just got a couple more questions and we can wrap
Yeah,
up here. But
sure.
have there been any unexpected benefits or rewards as a result of your transition? Anything unexpected that you weren't expecting when you went into it?
Hmm. I guess the thing that I would say that's come up for me is tapping back into my creativity. I don't think I realized how much I had kind of really abandoned my love and desire to be creative. Um, for me, comes out in art, like drawing, sketching, coloring. Like I'm not Van Gogh by any stretch of the imagination, but I really enjoy kind of bringing things to life and have always enjoyed that. And then the other part is dancing. I forgot how much I love to dance.
Mm,
And I danced the first 20 years of my life. And then it's like going into a corporate world and the world around us, like that just like dropped off the planet for me. And I
mm,
tried to find that through yoga or, working out and all these things that are not the same creative flow for me. And
mm,
so I've gotten back into dancing and that makes me so incredibly happy. Um, it's been really powerful for me, and coming recently too has been even more of reminding myself how much I love to draw and paint and color and just creative outlets. And
mm.
that's really fruitful for me. And I think it's such a beautiful thing that we kind of shove down and as part of humanity say like, well, that's not going to make you money, or that's not going to like make you successful, or whatever these things are. And it's like, but it makes me happy. So isn't that what matters?
Yeah. I mean, even myself back at last New Year's, it'd been the first time I danced with my wife in years, and we went to this New Year's event, and it was like this 20s, 30s kind of type of event, and so we were all dressed up, and we just found some stuff at Goodwill to make ourselves look kind of like that, and dressed up for it, and it was just a lot of fun. And it's like, wow. I mean, I used to go back when I was a teenager, and then like early 20s, I'd go to nightclubs and stuff and go dancing, and I really enjoyed doing that. And a lot of that's been lost, and it's just been special events like that and our wedding and for dancing, and that's about it. So it's just you're bringing that stuff back into your life again that has been lost.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone who's considering leaving their corporate job to pursue their own business?
My advice would be just today, start tuning into yourself. So start observing yourself, meaning what lights you up, what makes you happy, what is kind of holding you back. Ask questions of yourself, like, why is that holding me back? What is that? Where does that come from? And I say that because as you start to endeavor on your own, you are on your own, and you can seek resources outside of yourself, but really starting to know and learn yourself is going to be the most important. And you're going to learn a lot more about yourself. But start tuning in now, so that you can start to really feel for yourself what is alignment, and when you feel really good and lit up, and when you're not. And then the thing that I'll tack onto that then is, once you start to identify what lights you up, start to seek others that have similar light ups, right? Like, who else is going to like stoke that fire for you? Who else motivates you, influences you, inspires you in that way that gets you going again? Because you will need to find it in yourself, but you can also seek that out in community so that others can drive you that way. And if you're finding that others are pulling you down rather than lighting you up, find new communities. There are people that are here, and you will start to attract them that like light your fire. So those are the two things that I would offer: is start tuning into yourself so you know what those things are, and you can really feel it and sense it when it's true for you. And then start finding your communities that are going to help bring that out in you.
I couldn't agree more. That's totally taking back humanity all the way, right?
Right? Yes. It's all full circle. It doesn't end.
So where can people find you and learn more about your work?
Yeah, sure. So they can find me. My website is thehumanarray.com. And in progress of building a community of communities, so that if you're searching for those people that help light you up, you can find it through a community environment. And you can connect with me, obviously, via email on that website, or you can find me on Instagram, which is @thehumanarray, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Carrie Allen. I think it's Carrie Allen 12 is the link. So those are the best places to find me. And I would love to talk and connect with you if you're seeking community, if you're seeking a way to find your way back to yourself. I'd love to support you and help you in that journey.
Thank you, Carrie, so much for being here today. I really appreciate you being on the show. You're just so aligned with the point behind taking back humanity, and I love chatting with you. And I'll include in the show notes all the different links that she was just mentioning, so you can learn more about Carrie. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Aaron. It has been an absolute pleasure to speak with you again today. And I love your mission and can't wait to see it continue to grow.
head over to the show notes where you can leave us a rating and review. And I'll see you in the next episode.